so I'm here with Raoul Pal at the World Economic Summit 2015. And Mr. Pal, firstly, we'd like to say thank you very much for attending, and we really enjoyed your talk. How are you enjoying your time at the summit?
I think it's
so
great. Amazing speakers, and everyone's really enthusiastic, so yeah, really enjoying it.
That's good to hear. And for those students who are unable to attend your talk, could you outline the key message that you wanted to convey
Sure.
to students?
The key message is I've been involved in financial markets and macroeconomics, and that kind of juxtaposition between the two for 25 years now. And the thing I'm trying to get across to people is be very careful about the schools of economics that we get taught at university, because they've kind of failed us in the real world. So I deal with the real world, and therefore we need to look at a broader scope of economics and economic studies and different schools, things like behavioural economics, things like Austrian economics, that people have discarded, because without a new group of economists coming forward, we're going to keep creating the same mistakes that got us into this big mess in the first place.
Okay. And in your talk, you challenged traditional economic schools of thought. So how would you propose to reform the way that economics is taught in universities? For example, you talked about the Austrian teaching and more behavioural economics. And how do you think this will change kind of the outlook of economists of the future?
I think we need to give debate back to students, because if you read back in the past between the Austrian school and the classical schools of economics, and when Keynes came about, universities were debating this stuff. They would kind of get behind their man and everyone would debate it and people would create this intelligent debate. We're now so driven by getting a job after university that people just kind of go to the lectures, get it done and go.
Yeah.
When really, it's all the economic students are now are going to be the policy makers later. So that I know it seems like a big responsibility, but if you can just engage in debate and ask for more in-depth classes about other stuff and then create debate about them, saying, okay, what can we learn from this? What are our suggestions? Then I think you'll get some answers.
Okay. And you also suggested in your talk that there are no circumstances under which debt is an acceptable policy. Do you think that there are no circumstances under which debt is necessary in terms of kind of start-up businesses or funding innovation?
Yes, no, debt is absolutely part of the global economy. It's right. It's extreme debt is the problem. If you just keep building and building debt, because people forget a simple thing is people think debt is wealth or money. Debt is money, and it's actually the inverse of money. Because if you can pretend you're a billionaire by borrowing $1 billion and saying, look how rich I am, I'm buying yachts, but you're actually worth a negative billion. And people forget that. And so with debt, you need to be very careful to not believe that that is your money. It's actually money you owe. So you're taking away from future consumption by taking on board debt. So debt is perfect for building businesses, starting up when you're starting your job and your career and all of that stuff. But to be saddled with too much debt, even student loans, it just makes it really hard for you, because if you build up too much student loan debt, then you're paying it off for the next 10 years plus of your career. And that's kind of doesn't work very well.
And in your talk, you also outlined and you gave an example of Japan's monetary policy at the moment, kind of the introduction of low interest rates, and how it hasn't solved the problems of structural lack of demand. So do you believe that monetary policy is ever effective?
Yeah, it's effective at the margin, as long as you don't build up too much debt. You allow some debt to build up, and then you need to make sure that debt goes. What we've had a tendency to do is use monetary policy too quickly, and then allow a build-up in debt, and then you kind of stabilise, and then you use monetary policy again and build up more debt. So what we're not doing is, we never, from the Greenspan era onwards, we didn't raise interest rates enough in the good parts of the cycle to dampen demand for debt. So yeah, that's the problem, I think.
Okay. And we've also watched some clips from your new online and on-demand television channel, finance television channel, Real Vision Television. So could you tell us a bit about your vision for Real Vision?
The vision for that is on a number of levels. Firstly, we thought the financial media does a really bad job at interviewing people, doing analysis. It's down to 3-minute sound bites. So nobody gets anything across. Most of the TV networks who cover this are biased in their reporting. So what you don't get is again the real world. The other thing I looked at is, as I've talked to today here, is about people aren't getting enough access to broader schools of thought. So people who are investing at home don't get the kind of analysis that myself or a lot of other independent research providers provide, because it's too expensive for them. But this is a platform that we can put all of these people with intelligent, thought out, independent, unbiased view and give them a platform, so then viewers can come to it and learn all the broader stuff and how the real world works, and really what the flaws are in our system and what the risks are in our system, and not being told, yeah, you need to buy this stock because it's going up, because that's just not, it's not right.
Yeah. And who do you envisage interviewing in the future on Real Vision?
Well, we've interviewed some of the largest hedge fund managers in the world and sat down with them for an hour and a quarter and said, tell us how you run money, exactly what you do, how do you think about things, how do you think about risk, all the questions people didn't ask. We're going to be involved a bit with the Austrian School of Economics guys, because we think they deserve a platform, and any of the other schools of economics. We've already had some of the behavioural economists on. Who are we looking to interview? I'm interviewing a guy called Albert Edwards, who's one of the most interesting macroeconomists at Nomura, investment strategist. So I'm seeing him in 2 days' time, interviewing him. We're interviewing some people about emerging markets. We've got all sorts of people and all sorts of stuff, usually interesting.
That sounds really interesting. And in 2012, you predicted the biggest bank crisis in history. In the wake of Alexis Tsipras' election as Greek Prime Minister, what would be your kind of next set of predictions for the eurozone?
It's difficult. I mean, we luckily got out of that crisis at the very last moment. We came within the Spanish bailout, which was $30 billion euros, of the whole of the European banking system collapsing. So we came so close, it was unbelievable, and we didn't. So now, I think I explained at the talk, we need to see what happens when the next global recession comes, which I think is coming within the next 24 months. With the Greek situation, it's also nuanced because game theory is coming into it and various other things, is trying to understand who wants what out of this whole situation. I'm more interested in what happens after the Spanish elections and whether the Spanish vote for Podemos, and if they do, then that is a huge country with $1 trillion of debt saying, listen, we might not pay all our debts back, or we're going to look for a different way of doing it. And if that's the case, then Europe is really in trouble, because then the Italians are next and the French are next, and it's all over. So we don't know how it plays out. All I do know is everyone tries to paper up the gaps as soon as they can and hope it goes through okay, and maybe it does.
Okay, thank you. And what advice would you give to any kind of budding student entrepreneurs among the student population here at Warwick?
Yeah, I think finance is fascinating now because it's all changing. It used to be you had to go and work for Goldman Sachs, or you had to go and work for one of the big investment banks, and then you could go and work for a hedge fund or go and work for something else, or you go and work for the IMF later, or whatever it was. I think the whole world's changing because we're seeing finance disintermediated, and we saw it from the head of Lloyd's TSB, who gave was it Lloyd's TSB? I think it was, who gave the talk earlier, saying, listen, everything's changing because there's new small businesses starting up to do peer-to-peer lending. There's new small businesses being involved in using the blockchain within Bitcoin to record ownership of securities. There's transaction stuff going on Bitcoin. There's so much. So for an entrepreneur who likes finance, the world's your oyster, because the whole finance industry is about to change over the next 10 years.
Okay. And who or what would you say has been your biggest inspiration in your career so far?
That's difficult. I would say it's a few people, and they were the macro hedge fund managers of old, who became very famous for analysing the global economies, understanding where the weaknesses were, how that fed to asset classes, and that's people like George Soros, Stanley Druckenmiller, Paul Tudor Jones, people like that, who are still around investing today. I think George Soros is, I don't know, in the top 10 richest men in the world still, from just investing, just using his brain, not producing anything, just using his brain. That's a pretty amazing thing.
Okay, Raoul Pal, thank you very much for speaking to us today.
Thank you very much.